The following podcast is being brought to you by the Defy Life Podcast Network.
And I was like, yes, hi. I was so excited.
Oh, we said hi. Let me get the hi again.
Okay, hi.
A guy get to a point and he asks you to marry him, he really wants to marry you.
Mm-hmm. He ready.
Like he really feels like, you know what, she's the one. She's the one.
You already getting the goods. You got to pay for it. Bring me the ring and get on one knee.
Okay.
Or two.
You need time to observe someone and really get a sense of how well do they treat you, how well do they handle adversity.
You're not the one because you don't have grit, the perseverance. You ain't really want me because you ready to give up. Because I said no. Nah, you shouldn't have asked. But since I said no, now it's your job to stay in the game and try to fight for it.
Boy, on 5 Heartbeats, where you make the announcement you're going solo at the awards ceremony.
Yo, what's up? Happy One Eye Shut Day. Welcome to our podcast about many topics from the perspective of 3 married couples. You can listen to us on DefyLifePods.com, Spotify, iTunes, and any of the other popular podcast platforms. Special shout out to Everett Lipscomb. He's our patron of the week. Thank you for your support. So we weren't on last week. We missed you guys. Hopefully you missed us too. But as life happens, the universe just kind of decided that we shouldn't be on last week. Some things came up, and so we were obedient and took a break for a week. But we are back in full effect, and we've got a great podcast for you tonight. My name is Gina Glymph, and I am your host. But before we go around and let everyone say hello and give their word of the day, let's raise our cups, y'all. Want to give a toast to Thomas and Jaquita Stevens. Happy anniversary.
12 years.
Happy anniversary.
12 years.
Oh, thank you.
What was the date?
The date is June 21st.
June 21st.
That's my niece's birthday.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and it was Keita's birthday too, right?
No. It wasn't my birthday. It was my niece's birthday. She turned 10. Yeah.
That's how rumors get started.
Right.
No,
got me over here questioning myself, like, how I miss Keita's birthday though?
I ain't seen that on Facebook. What's happening?
No, I'm too selfish. I wouldn't dare have a wedding on my birthday week. I want my birthday the same.
Right.
I'm too selfish for that.
Keep those celebrations separate.
Wow.
Yes. So to Jaquita and Thomas, may you guys have many, many more. Continue to love each other and choose each other every day. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
Anybody else want to give a word?
Salud. Happy anniversary, y'all.
Happy anniversary. Proud of y'all. It don't seem like 12 years since Pooh came out doing Walk It Out for their first dance.
Go ahead.
Thug love.
No doubt. But yeah, all the best to y'all. You know, one of my favorite couples. Love y'all.
No doubt, man. Much love.
Thank you, Jay.
No doubt.
Okay. Ladine, you in or you out?
I'm in. I mean, all them beautiful wishes and stuff, they already know. I love them too, forever. I wasn't at their beautiful wedding, but I'm excited to be a part of their beautiful lives. So, yes, happy anniversary.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, so y'all, let's get this party started. Tonight, we are going to be talking about love languages. Yeah, and hopefully, maybe this will be something that going into your 13th year, Jaquita and Thomas. Maybe this is something that will strengthen you all's relationship even more. And the same for the rest of us. I think it's going to be very interesting. Al and I have had this conversation many times before, and it's been a minute. So I'm curious to see where we're going to land tonight. We're going to be cordial, though. As usual, we want everybody to be able to sleep in the same bed tonight. Nobody going to bed pissed off. So fellas, just make sure y'all say the right things and everything will be gravy. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
As always, I'll be on my best behavior.
Right. And as always, I'll find a way to fuck it up.
What is happening right now, Thomas? Where do you fit in? I don't understand.
I mean, I guess it's okay if I just stand here and get bludgeoned to death.
No, Keita don't be doing you like that.
That's what it seems like it's gonna be, But it's all good.
I love how y'all playing the victims today. Don't start. We're not gonna start this off with a bunch of victims, all right?
Don't start.
Right.
That's how we start off. It's okay, but we've been warned, so it's all right. We'll move forward with the soft gloves. We'll be kind and gentle.
We'll see.
We know how to play well. All right, so Al, what you got? How you feeling today?
How am I feeling today? I'm feeling. What's my word for today? My word for today is really what we're doing here, right? So my word for today is gray. As I look outside and it's cloudy, so I think gray, just because that's life right now. A little bit of the good, a little bit of the bad, but it's mixing in. So I'm feeling it all. So it's gray. That's my word.
I like that word. Gray is my favorite color.
Gray is your favorite color.
Mm-hmm. Jaquita, Thomas.
Thomas, I'll let you go first.
I feel energized, and I guess because of the anniversary, and we got a year down and another year to go. So whatever we didn't get better on or didn't perfect in that year, we have an entire year to make well on that. So I'm energized and trying to make it better.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. So you starting off real good, Thomas.
Stop.
Girl, go ahead.
Jaquita.
I'll say my word of today is accomplished. I felt like we wanted to get the kids out for the weekend, with the COVID and all that stuff, because we were in the house forever and a day. And so we were thinking about the beach, but South Carolina is like ridiculous with cases. So we decided that we made a whole week for Juneteenth, and we kind of educated the kids on, that holiday. And we bought like this big bounce house where they can slide and water slide and everything. And so they felt like they were on a vacation in Charlotte at my sister's house. So they came up to me and said, "Oh, we had such a great time." So I felt like I'm accomplished. I did what I wanted to do to make my kids feel like they were on a vacation at the house.
That's what's up.
Nice. Ladine?
I'm feeling good today, so I'm gonna say real good. We got 2 words for the day. No, seriously, I haven't really been feeling up to it lately. There's been no desire to really do much of anything. So, I don't know. I guess I feel a little energized. I'm feeling real good. So yeah, I'm gonna say real good because I am just loving Ladine today. So And that, of course, always makes it a better day for everyone else, because when I'm not in, Love and Ladine mode, it becomes a problem. So you guys are you guys are in good hands tonight. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
At least you know. At least you know.
Right.
JR?
I'm loving Ladine tonight too, so that's good. Man.
All right.
I'm feeling refreshed, as we talked about last night on the show, and like I've been talking about for months. I just haven't been feeling like myself, so finally went and got it checked out, and I'm learning how to let people, look after me. So thankful for my wife. She's been, really good about, taking care of me as I get back to feeling like myself. So thank you, babe. So yeah, feeling refreshed. I'm starting to feel closer to 100%, and I can go, back to being 100% bad guy that I usually am, but not quite there yet.
Okay, so in a couple of days, you'll be ready to run that marathon?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll see you at the finish line.
One leg, one hand tied behind my back. No doubt. Rapping Bone Thugs and Harmony while I do it.
Okay.
All right.
So for me today, I'm gonna say reserved. I've been looking for an adjective to describe my feelings today, just in general, and just kind of been having a hard time coming up with describing where I am. So I'll just say reserved. I've been very quiet today, just kind of laid back to myself, just spending time with Gina. Yeah. So, okay. So we're going to get started with the anniversary couple.
All right.
Mm-hmm. So, Jaquita, and what have you and Thomas ever had this conversation before about the love languages?
Yes, I believe that I'm the one that I actually wanted to have each other like by the book, so we can, because we were at a role where I was just getting frustrated, just in the marriage moment of in me, things weren't going right, and I was just feeling sad and not happy at all. So I felt like that was a good a thing that we should do as far as like a therapy. I guess I was like, well, maybe we should both read the 5 love languages, and we never did. So I mean, he said that he didn't hear about it or whatever, and we were going to do it, but we never got actually went to buy the book yet. So
okay, so if you had to guess Thomas's love language, which would you say it is?
So that will be easy. Do we guess like all 3? I mean, like just what I feel like. Well, I'll just go ahead and say it. So
Do you know what they are?
I know what they are.
Okay.
So top 1, I think his number 1 love language is words of affirmation. And then I picked number 2. I think he would be receiving gifts. He's all about gifts. And then number 3 would say quality time.
Okay. Thomas?
And so I'm guessing hers, right?
I was going to ask you, is she right?
Is she right about what?
About yours? What she just said yours are.
Mine, as in what I want or what I give off. See, that's what I'm.
Oh my goodness! See what I got?
See, I do think there's both. I do think there's
right.
I do think there's how you give love and how you want to receive love to this conversation.
Right.
And
so
they can be different.
So what do you ask?
So well, let's talk about that then, right? Okay. So for the listeners who may not be familiar, there was a book written maybe 15 years ago or so called The 5 Love Languages. And basically, the author says that there are 5 love languages that people prescribed to. Words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, quality time, and physical touch. And so Ladine had asked that question earlier, right? Is there a difference between how you receive love and how you give love? I personally don't remember what this particular author says about that. I've always been under the impression that it's one and the same. Al has always felt that it was different, and it sounds like you agree with him, Thomas. Okay. So, Keita, when you were giving his love languages, is that how he receives it or how he gives it?
No, that's how he receives it. This is what he looks for as far as like his language of being just like his feeling. Like he feels good when I give off like any type of like affirmation to him and gifts like that completes him.
Right. So what you're answering, Thomas, is she correct in how you receive love?
No. No, not in that order, no.
What would you say is your top one?
My top one is, I would say, quality time. I would say quality time is number one. I would say acts of service is 2. And I would say words of affirmation is 3, because, I like being told thank you, and I appreciate it. Not that, well, you did a wonderful job, but just to let me know that you appreciate what I attempted to do, or whether if you didn't like it, or if you thought it was perfect, or if you didn't, you didn't think it was up to your standards, just let me know that, okay, you thanking me for at least giving it the old college try, so I guess that type of thing. And, so that's where I am, like that's my top 3. Did I say 3? 4, I like gifts. Yeah. 5, physical touch, probably.
Okay. So, Thomas, if you had to guess Chiquita's, her love language as she receives love.
What I think I think that she likes most, probably acts of service. And 2, I would probably say quality time. And 3, words of affirmation. Probably 4, receiving gifts. 5, probably physical touch.
Chiquita, what say you?
So wrong.
This is interesting.
Well, I told y'all in the beginning, we were thinking about like really digging into these 5 love languages, but we never really did or whatever. So, well, he did get number 1 right, was the acts of service, because that's something I talk about all the time. Like, I don't care about gifts. I don't care about none of that. As long as you, like, if I see you take the time to plan, and you just do things around the house, I'm good. Right. Acts of service is number 1 for me. But number 2 is physical touch, and 3 is quality time.
Well, I had quality time too, innit?
No.
Yeah.
You had it as 4.
No.
I have a question. So, did y'all take the survey?
The test.
The test that she sent out?
No, I didn't.
No, we did not.
I didn't look at the test.
Okay. I'm saying this because.
Dang. See how y'all do me?
No.
Y'all didn't tell me to take a test.
Well, no. So I recommend it. I recommend if and I ain't gonna ask that again in terms of the co-host, but it does give you kind of based on the questions, percentages in terms of a ranking. So I wasn't sure. Y'all are pretty good. I wasn't sure if y'all were giving these rankings based off your own, like if y'all took the test, because I have what I had. I did take the test, so I have what the computer feels.
Oh, okay.
Which kind of differs to probably what I would have described myself. So I'm just kind of see.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And who does that?
What?
Who does
You
what?
Who takes the test and then says that the test is different? Like those aren't the right answers.
Alvin Glenn.
When the
Why not?
when the test is based, because the test is based on how you feel. So how do you answer the test based on how you feel, but then it's not how you really feel because that's not how it came.
I know me better than the test though, so it could be wrong or right.
Okay.
Hey, but hold on, one moment. I think I did pretty good because I wasn't so wrong because I said acts of service 1, quality time 2, affirmation 3, receiving gifts and physical touch. I wasn't absolutely wrong because her top 2, I named those top 2, and she didn't say anything else about 3 and 4 and 5. So I wasn't so wrong.
It sounds like you were more right than Chiquita was.
Correct.
About you, I'm just saying. I ain't trying to start nothing. I'm just saying. Just making an observation.
Well, he's just saying that because if we go deep into, with this love language, I am a talker. Okay. So, like I give off like what I want. You know what I'm saying? That's something that he doesn't do. You'll never figure it out what he's asking for or what he's missing. That's something I'm gonna tell you straight off the bat. Like, this is what I'm looking for, hands down. Get it together, type thing.
That's not one of the love languages, though.
Yes.
No, but what she's saying is,
I heard you, but I don't see that one on the list.
It's not on the list. She said this is an open book test. He better have got it right. That's what she's saying.
Which language is that?
I usually tell like what my language is. Like I know what I'm looking for and what I want my partner to give me, like what pleases me. So that's something I've always talked to him about. So I'm sure he's gonna be right because I talk about that all the time.
But you went on and slandered me and said I was so wrong.
But you were wrong though.
Where was I wrong?
Quality time was 3, not 2.
Oh, come on, y'all. Are we serious about it? Come on.
He wants to be right, but really
I think he did pretty good.
What are we doing here?
Okay.
Yeah. What are we doing?
And this was just some thought.
Okay.
But, I mean, it really is telling because I think that happens more often than not for couples who have not gone through the book or know about the book or,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's often the guess is something different than what you.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it is. All right, Ladine, what's your guess about JR? Is this a guess or do you know?
Yes, I know how my husband give. Well, how about I tell you how he gives? So JR gives for him it's acts of service. That's what that's his love language. We're receiving right now.
Right.
All right. So receiving, I'm gonna say his is definitely acts of service for that also. His is acts of service and quality time. Those are his top 2. If we're doing 3, you could do words of affirmation after that. He's not on receiving gifts. He doesn't have to receive gifts. It's not big for him. He's big on quality time, giving it to him and giving it to others. He's hella big on acts of service, and showing and proving your love. And I say physical touch is his least way to receive it. He's not big on that either. So, yeah.
JR, how'd she do?
Spot on. Ding, ding, ding.
Spot on. Yeah. All right, let's see if you're gonna be spot on.
Let's see how I do. As far as how she receives, right?
Yep.
Well, it's kind of the same for both. Giving and receiving. Physical touch, number 1. Words of affirmation, number 2. And I say receiving gifts, number 3. Slightly ahead of quality time.
Okay. Ladine?
Oh shit! I love this. This is great. So, what did you say, babe? You said physical touch.
Oh, come on.
Words of affirmation.
Yes.
And gifts.
And gifts. Yeah, he right. He on it. But I'd probably say, as far as receiving, like, I don't really need the words of affirmation. I feel like people assume that, even my husband. I don't need to be reassured. The recognition it's not necessary for me. I think that feels good for everybody, but it's not necessary for me.
She doesn't receive them well. She needs them, but she's convinced herself that she doesn't need them. But but she has trouble receiving.
I'm sorry, but this is my perspective. You don't think this is my perspective? Are we talking about me? Okay, so I'm giving. No, I receive.
I'm just offering.
Okay, so
I'm just offering. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Having said that, so he gave you words of affirmation as the second one, but you said you don't really need that. So what would you put in its place? What would you take as second?
I would do acts of service and then receiving gifts. Absolutely.
So you want to know why I didn't go that route?
Why?
Go ahead, Jay.
No, I'm just because because acts of service for my wife is for anybody. It's not a way of expressing love. It's just her way of like servicing people. It can be people that she doesn't even know, and she's giving acts of service to, like, just to be kind, or, you know. So I don't think it's a way of expressing love for her. I just think it's just a way of, for her, regardless of who it is. It could be a perfect stranger.
See, this is very interesting. Can I talk about this really quick? This is. You have anything else to say, Jay?
No.
Okay. And so the reason why I think this is very interesting, because I think that people confuse, and I know that this is what we're doing. We are a relationship podcast, right? We're talking about we give our perspectives from a married couple's perspective. But I think it's interesting when people talk about the love language, because I think your love language is expressed when you are in relation with anyone, all of the time. So it's very important that you even see that. I do that with other people, and you don't even realize that, because that is who I am naturally. So, I think that people really get confused with, and I do think people that have issues expressing their emotions are the ones that do get confused and that don't understand that this isn't just about, me loving you in this relationship. This is who I am.
No, I'm perfectly understanding of that. I'm just saying there's a difference to me.
So I think that it's one and the same. Right, so I completely agree with Ladine. I don't think that this is separate from your love language. To me, is not separate for your spouse versus other people in your life. And so that, to me, what you have described speaks even more as to why that is absolutely her love language, because that's what she does. That's who she is with everybody. And so that love is just bigger than what people probably think of when you hear love language as it relates to, a romantic.
Yeah, I mean, I get what y'all are saying. I just think I don't tend to lump to me that kind of lumps every relationship and how you treat every relationship. It kind of lumps them all together in how you treat people. I just think, knowing my wife and observing her on a case by case basis, which I don't tend to throw a blanket over every relationship and say that's just a relationship. No, they're all different. So, whether it's a perfect stranger or her mom or me or anyone, I kind of tend to judge them differently. So I don't think relationship equals relationship across the board. That's what I'm saying.
All right, so you got that one wrong, Jay.
And before y'all go to Gina and Al, I want to talk about that too. Like, I agree with Lady is saying is because I feel like when you see your partner, like that's what she gives off to like her family or just to anyone, then they love to see that given back to them from their partner. Cause like I love that's what I do. It's like an acts of service. Like I feel like that's what I do with my family. I help people, all of the above. And I feel like that's something I want, number one, when it comes to my partner. So I definitely agree with Lady with that and the ladies.
Yeah, I could go into further detail, but that'd be an entirely different show. So I concede the point.
Okay, good. Al.
So I just want to say, when it comes to these love languages, how you show it and how you like it to be shown to you can be the same, and it sometimes can be different for people. I think everybody's different. I think the key to these love languages is to what Keita's talking about is communicating what you want, how you want it to be shown to you. And also, I think being perceptive to how the other wants it to be shown. Like I think so. It's two sides to this that ultimately, as we are talking, is you want it to be shown. You need to be paying attention, but you also need to tell the other this is what you want. So, to the question of who are you is what I'm supposed to be answering. Your love languages. I don't know how to rank them, but gifts is definitely one. Quality time is another one that's up there. And touch, I also say would probably be high on your list too. Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Touch. Let's say physical touch.
Physical touch.
Put your lips together and say physical touch.
Physical touch. Physical.
There you go.
Receiving gifts.
Shift the dynamic, Al.
And quality
time. There you go.
How am I?
So, how are you? I mean, So my top two are gifts and acts of service. And look, he said that like he's surprised. Like, this is just so amazing to me. And then after that, I guess quality time would be number 3. Touch would be number 4, and words of affirmation is last. Yeah. And so, even as I was thinking, and I'm still like trying to figure out what I'm going to say, like as each person is going, I'm like, okay, what am I going to say when it comes to my turn? What am I going to say? Because I don't know the answer. I don't even know what to guess. And remember, like I've said that we've had this conversation several times before, and I still don't know the answer because honestly, I don't think he knows the answer. And so I just kind of have to guess from day to day what we doing here.
Hey,
you laughing, but I'm so serious.
Welcome to the world of being Alvin Glim's wife.
I just be like, what the fuck?
Welcome to the
what
world.
The fuck? So I am going to say words of affirmation. That's all I got. Words of affirmation. All right, so I'll words of affirmation first. I'll do.
Is this what you think he receives? How in the order he receives? Yes.
To me, they're one and the same. I'm going to say, so I'm answering receiving.
Okay.
Yes. I just cannot subscribe to them being different. Like, I just don't even understand that. But so I'm doing receiving. Words of affirmation, quality time, maybe second. Acts of service, physical gifts. And again, there's nothing to definitely the last for the words of affirmation, because I just know that he does sometimes appreciate that, but I really cannot give y'all what his language is. Been with this man for 30 years and I still really 32 years.
Swahili.
And I really don't. You're right, and I don't speak Swahili. So you know this shit has been challenging. I'm just saying. Go ahead.
So
sound like you want to say something.
I mean, I would just wait for you to finish. So I think part of what she is expressing for my co-hosts and listeners is what Thomas was accused of, which is not communicating his love language enough. So I hit, what's the hit dog will holler. I'm that. I be that. I don't always communicate, this is how I want you to love me. But to answer the question, I would say I am someone when it comes to showing love and how I want it to be shown to me. Words of affirmation and acts of service are what I value the most. Gifts I probably value the least. Quality time is important and touch is important. I think it's hard for me to rank them, honestly, or I just know things that I care about and things that I don't really care about. So I think that's part of the confusion too, because I don't really share to you all the time like this is more important or this is more important. I just say, yeah, that matters and that don't matter. That's kind of how I am. But words of affirmation for me are, because I think what's not on the list, or maybe it is, I just ain't figured out where to put it. But for me, like tolerance and acceptance is how you show love. And I don't know, to me, that's what I value most in terms of how I want to be received. I want people to just accept me, tolerate me for me. And that's, if you love me, that's what you would give me. That's how I bring it to the world. I don't see it in that love language, but where I look at words of affirmation, why I think it matters, because when you are affirming somebody and you are offering words to express that affirmation comes from you loving that person and accepting that person and want to see that person be better. Like, that's why I like words of affirmation and encouragement, because I think that comes from a place of, I really fuck with you. Excuse my language. That's why you give words of affirmation, because you represent, you recognize that person. And so anyway, but service is important to me as well. I think that's how I show love the most, by how I do for people. And I think people would, when they think of Alvin, they'll say like that dude, when I asked him for something, he did. And that's how I show love. I am an act person as well, not just words. So I think that's where I see the distinction. I think I show love through service, but I probably prefer it to be shown to me in words of affirmation. That's where I'm at.
I'm not sure who this man is describing.
Alvin Glenn.
I just don't even know who he's talking about. But we'll talk more about that when we come back. Got a few bills to pay.
We're told that greatness is exceptional when it should be expected. You choose every day to live your life intentionally, without apology for how bright your light may shine. So go be great. Go be brilliant. Go be you. Go defy life. The Defy Life movement is one that speaks to each of us in its own way. Defy Life Gear speaks to us all by reminding us that one size does not fit all. Visit DefyLifeGear.com to get fitted for greatness.
Welcome back. We left off with Al and his complex explanation of his, I don't know what it was, his love languages and how he sees them. So let me ask you, it seems like pretty much, I mean, we had some right guesses and we had some that missed the mark. When you hear your spouse's love language and it's different than what you thought it was, how do you make sure that your spouse is heard or felt loved, considering that there's a difference in what your love languages are from theirs, but two, we also, as we have just seen, we don't always know or remember what our spouse's love language is. Anybody?
I think it seems like how you look at it. Like,
yeah.
are we considering like the third one on the guest list like as important as the first one?
So, if I remember correctly, when you do the test, they really only do your first two.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I remember, my first two, and they've been pretty consistent all of my life. They might switch, 1 and 2 might switch places, but it's usually the top two.
Right. Okay. Which is why I was saying it'd be an entirely different show if I were to go into further detail. But because we went like a whole lot deeper than I thought we would. But I think really like it's important to, one, know that people are ever evolving. So even if, chances are your spouse's love language will, deviate over time. It may come back to the same one. Even if it stays the same, the importance of one, may change over time. Or they may develop this is a play on words, I guess, but they may develop a new accent on that language and how they receive it or how they deliver it. So I think it's just important to pay attention and apply it on a day-to-day basis.
But I think, I agree with what Jay said, but I think that the other reality is that we human. And we are married and we are parents and we are all types of other stuff. And what happens sometimes in life is that you tend to then get into what works for you or where your preferences are or what's your natural disposition in terms of how you tend to show love. And this is why I think, my belief that people receive love and show love differently. I think a lot of times when you show love different than how another person likes to receive love, it just takes you got to continually remind yourself, like, yeah, I know, Al, you might think acts of service or giving gifts, that's how you show love, but you know what, this person likes to receive it with quality time. And sometimes we just miss the mark on that. I think that's the reality of who we are as humans.
True.
Sometimes you don't show them the way they want it to be, and therefore they don't feel it. But even though they don't feel it, that don't mean it doesn't exist. Because I'm also a believer that just because you feel something, that don't make it reality. So somebody might not feel loved because they're not being loved the way they wanted to be loved in that moment. But that doesn't mean the love does not exist. It just means the person showed it in a way that you didn't really appreciate. And I think if you show love, it's love.
Well, I definitely also believe that being mindful around the language that you use within your love period is important. And so I think we take words for granted, period. And so for me, I know I'm hypersensitive when it comes to people and emotions and feelings. And I think all of those things are very important. And because it just, people give off a certain vibe when they're feeling a certain way, when their emotions are all over the place. There's an energy in which they bring them with them when they enter in a room, in a space. So it's very important to acknowledge those feelings and those emotions that a lot of people don't feel need to be acknowledged, or that may not be as important, but they definitely are. For language, words, period, are powerful. They are important, and fuck words of affirmation, right? I just mean period. Words are important and they are powerful, and you don't always have to reaffirm someone, but the way you communicate and the way you put those words into different perspectives for your loved one to be able to receive it. No, it's not your responsibility to worry about the way someone receives you. No, but when you are in love, and I mean inside of a loving relationship, come the fuck on and let your ego go. And yes, understand that the way someone receives you is important. So absolutely, work and shift your ways around each other. Like there's nothing like, and I say this all the time because love is so beautiful to me. And you can tell when a man and a woman are not loving on each other accordingly, the way the other one wants to receive that love. So yeah, I mean, love is beautiful. It's fucking dope. It's so many lessons. It's so many things. But I don't think that we as people are mindful enough with the way we communicate, whether it's within these 5 love languages or not, but just the way we communicate our words of love to each other, our language of love, period.
And I think you and Al said 2 totally different things, but both of you guys make total sense. No, both of you guys make total perfect sense. And I know that sounds odd because I know I miss the mark a lot because I show love or exert love and the way I typically know how or what is easy for me to do. And I guess Shakita doesn't always feel as though I'm putting in the extra effort because she wants hers another way. So she's not really, I guess, receiving the full potential of it because it's not being exerted in the way that she wants to be, to wants it given to her. So, I mean, I see what Al was saying. Hey, you know what? They love you. He loves you. So it's love. So receive the love. However, I get what Leigh is saying. You know what? Hey, you really need to pay attention and make sure that somehow, some way, you give them the love that the way they want to be loved. So I get that.
But it's not just that. It's also the way that you actually talk to each other, the words you use to each other.
Right.
Like, what the fuck are we talking about right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, or why are we not talking about this right now, nigga? This is fucking important.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it's important to communicate how you are feeling, what your emotions are. Sometimes people don't think that they're necessary, but they're very fucking necessary. If my husband's pissed off and he walks in the house fucking angry, his whole demeanor is screaming angry. You know what I'm saying? So the last thing I'm going to do is try to spark up a conversation like, oh, hey. And sometimes I might not notice it. Like when I come out the room, shut up, Thomas, when I'm working all day and I'll come out and I'll just start and I'll be like, oh shit, something else is happening here. What's happening? I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
So,
I hear somebody. I knew it was coming, Gina. What's happening?
No, I mean, I just okay. So first, let me just answer the question first, right? So for me, I think it's about honoring each other, right? And so and giving each other the grace that's needed. Because as Al said, we're all human, right? And as we have seen, within each couple, love languages are not always the same. And so it's giving grace that, this is out of their norm. And so, it's taking an extra effort to do whatever it is that they're doing. And also just remembering, being mindful what that other person is. what their love language is or what it is that they have expressed to you that they desire. But I do have to disagree with you, Ladine, on I think I heard you say that it's not the person's responsibility, it's not my responsibility on how Al receives what it is that I give him. And I disagree.
No, I didn't say that. I said usually that's what we say. You know, in general, that's what's said. But I think that it's more important. I think I think when you're inside of a relationship of love, you should have to want to be able to for that person to receive what it is that you're giving. Yeah, no. So we're on the same page. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Absolutely. But I also wanted to touch on this, because Al talked about it a little bit, this idea, and I kind of want you guys maybe to help me understand, right? Because for me, it has to be one and the same. Like, it doesn't make sense to me for it to be any other way, how you give love and how you receive love. Your love language speaks for both of them. And while you end up giving love in different ways based on who you're with, that's still not your love language. That is you catering to your spouse's love language and trying to give them what they want. But love, in my mind, like, it's defined however you have defined it. And so it doesn't change. Like, I feel love most is going to be the same way that you give love, because that is your understanding of love and what it looks like and what it feels like and what it tastes like. And so if that's your feeling around love, then it's not going to change whether you're getting it or giving it. Like, it's the same.
I feel that. I
so for
understand
me,
what you're saying.
So you're saying that the way you give and you saying the way that you give and the way you receive is the same?
I'm saying it's the same. The way that you would give it, if it was completely your choice, would look the same. But we end up giving it in different ways.
Compromising, right.
Because I know Al likes to receive it in this way. But if it was just all about me, I would give love the same way that I like to receive it, because that's what love means to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean, like, it's only one definition.
Yeah,
I understand your perspective now that you have broken that down. Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. And that's the way I've always understood it as well, is, you speak your love language and in the same way you want it in return to you. So.
And I guess just because I've always understood this as like these love languages are just preferences.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I might prefer to receive love through words of affirmation, I prefer to show my love through how I do for folk. And I look at my life and what I've done for people who I've loved, and to me, the greatest acts of love for me was the acts of service I've done for folk. And I've done it more times than words of affirmation, although I love words of affirmation, especially when it's coming my way. When I look at my life and what I really have done to show love for folk, it's acts of service. And I also pride myself in that I do for folk. That's how I show my love. You want to know how I love you? Nigga, I do for you.
And that's fine. I'm just suggesting that perhaps that's how you would also prefer to receive it.
Not the highest, though. That's what I'm saying. Like,
not the highest.
Not my greatest way I would like to receive it. I don't think so.
I think that's just I'm not knocking you, Al, or anything, because I do understand that's how a lot of people think. But I feel differently when it comes to love languages. I feel like everybody is different. Like, you're your own person. So I feel like if I have a love language and I'm married to someone, I want to cater to him. Like, there's nothing wrong with me catering to my husband languages of how he wants to be loved. Like I sometimes I feel like it's like a selfish thought, because just because I love like the acts of service, like that's my thing, that's what I like to do. But if I see he's not that type of person, I'm not going to just continuously give off the acts of service to him, knowing that he loves more of receiving gifts or quality time. Like, I'm gonna give him the quality time, even though I'm not a quality time type person. I like to do, go and do things, whatever, adventures, like all this stuff. He doesn't like to do that stuff, but I know to go in my space. He likes sports. He likes to sit down, watch TV. I'm gonna do it. Like, I love my husband. Like, this is what I'm gonna do for you. So I feel like if that's your language, I'm going to cater to your language.
I agree. 1,000%. But
and so do I. So, like, I don't think what she said, I didn't take it as anything to contradict what I said, because I agree totally with what she's saying, in that if the person that you're loving on wants to receive it in a way that you don't prefer to give it, by all means, to honor them, you need to adjust.
Yeah, you gotta get that shit.
Okay, I get that. That's our ideal. That's what we strive to do.
Right, but I didn't say it was in contradiction.
Right. Mm-hmm. But my point, just to reiterate and clarify, just to make sure, where I'm at is within yourself. Some people prefer to receive love and prefer to show love the same way, but there are some people like me where it's different, and that's okay too. But for me, I prefer to receive it one way, which is affirmation, words of affirmation, and I think I prefer to show it how I show my love to others as acts of service.
And I hear you. I just, let me just say this. That is not how I experience you. It's just not.
This is so interesting.
That was my point earlier, is when we guessing each other's love languages, and even though they don't match, I don't think it's necessarily that anyone gets it wrong, because I think it's from two different perspectives. It's different from, the way you observe yourself, and even the narrative we build around ourselves can be completely different than how our spouse or anyone else, in this case our spouse, observes us on a day-to-day basis. And doesn't necessarily make it wrong, but it's just from a different perspective. So I think it's totally fair that both of you can be right on this.
No.
I can't be right. That's not how this marriage works.
I'll stay in my household. Right. I think it's fair that me and my wife can disagree, and we can both be right.
I do think that is possible.
That's what
JR. I just don't think. And again, because I am just that person, like, that does not make sense to me, and I'm just very logical in that way. And so I cannot, I hear what he's saying, and I've heard it before, and it's just, I just experience him differently. And it's hard for me to accept things that just do not make sense to me. Yeah, but having said that, I agree with you too, JR. It is all about perspective. I think in this case, it is the perspective of the other person that's more important. So I'm not experiencing him that way, but I need to hear and understand what he's saying, because that's what he is looking for. So real talk, my perspective in this situation to me doesn't really matter, because I need to be able to give him what he needs based on how he feels and what he's saying is important to him.
Yeah. Again, I don't think it's a matter of more, less, better, worse. It's just different. It's just two different perspectives, and I think that's okay.
It's definitely different for me. It's very different for me and I know it's very different for JR. I mean, Sorry, but it's just different because JR, he definitely receives, like, it's the acts of service that's his priority, like that's his number one, and mine is touch, and those are like two completely friggin' different things. Do you understand? So it's like for us to consistently balance, it's a lot. I mean, it's work. It's definitely work. It doesn't come easy for either one of us. We both stay steady struggling with each other, but we here. We working on it. But it's different. It's a lot. But I definitely think we make it work. Yeah. As much as we're willing to. But I definitely think that we both could do better for each other.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is, because there's that fine line of fulfilling someone else without sacrificing who you are, and totally feeling uncomfortable every second of your life. So
I can't deal with him. I swear.
Every second day.
No, I'm just saying,
what is happening right now?
Okay, first of all, I just let you talk for like 3 minutes, and I'll just get my thought out, please. So what I say by that is my wife, and self-admittedly, loves big, right? So everything she does within our relationship and all of her loving relationships is big. She loves huge, right? So if I had to fulfill every second and every ounce of her need to be like physically touched and around, I would feel uncomfortable most of the time because that's just not how I'm wired. You get what I'm saying? So it's just not who I am. So if I had to, like, every second of every day, like, touch her back, rub her arm, pat her on the ass a little bit, like, I would feel like, damn. So it's like every second of every. I don't love big like that. So
see, and I don't need that. That's the difference. And that's probably what it is that might be incredibly draining for my husband, is because he thinks I need that big shit every second of every fucking day. I don't need that every second of every day. But I need it often because he's my husband. And I am a physical human being. I'm a Scorpio. I want physical touch.
Right.
All right?
So what?
Often.
Okay. So. But the difference
but that doesn't mean like 10 times a day. I mean,
So the difference is when my wife gets a little, it charges her because that's what charges her, and she needs more of it. So if I start, I got to be willing to give more. It's just how she's wired. So I know that if I start something, I got to be willing to have the time, the energy, and the
ready
space
to finish that.
Right, exactly. There's no knock. It's just we're wired differently that way, as opposed to. A lot of times, especially early in our relationship, sometimes now, through my acts of service, I'll just take on things. If she comes home 2 weeks straight complaining about her job and don't do nothing about it, I'll start looking for jobs for her and start sending them to her. Because to me, I ain't gonna sit here and listen to you complain about shit that you ain't doing nothing about it. I'm gonna take action and I'm gonna start looking for you. Things like that. So, she, early in our relationship, she thought that was me trying to tell her what to do or, overstepping my bounds. But to me, that's saving my own boundaries. I'm not going to sit and listen to you complain about things or sit and listen to you say things that you want to do without either of us taking action. So I would always take action and lead on it because that's my way of expressing, hey, I support you. Like Al said, I fuck with you. Let's do this. So, that's a lot for her to take in. So if I were to expect her to accept every time I'm gung-ho about something and I just start moving on shit, she'd be worn out and uncomfortable all the fucking time because that's just how I'm wired. So it's just different.
Well, it's not just that. I think that there's levels to this shit because, so for instance, like what my husband is saying now, I never understood that. I never knew what it looked like for a man to be able to hold his woman. So for me growing up, I never saw a man actually be able to hold the powerful, strong women in my life. I never saw the man actually be able to hold her and stand his ground while holding her and lifting her up. I always saw that the man dimmed a woman's light. So that's a little different. And that's what I mean. There's levels to this shit. Because my husband was showing me a different way of being that I never understood, that I didn't even know how to calculate. You know what I'm saying?
Completely.
Good.
Yeah.
And so Al and I, we are very different in
everything.
Damn near everything. Right. And so for even for our love languages, while in our top 2 was acts of service, him for giving, we even define acts of service differently. And so the acts of service that I'm looking for, that I would appreciate, are just different in his mind than what he would give. And so even when things are the same or seemingly the same, there are still those nuances in there that just makes it still challenging. You know, for Al, acts of service are one things that people ask him for. Will you do this for me? Will you do that for me? And for him, that's an act of service, right? And so technically, yeah, but when you talk about the love languages in acts of service, that's not really what it's talking about, you know, or things that you have to do, even if it does benefit the other person. Like, that's not an act of service because you have to do that anyway. You're not doing it just for that person. And so even within that, like, we've had to have conversations about that. And it took us years, like literally, for us to even get on the same page in terms of just everything that we're talking about tonight, the differences that we have in the definitions, the willingness for us to do that for the other one on a consistent basis. Like, when I say years, y'all, I mean years. Probably just started yesterday. I'm just saying. It's been
years. So for me, and why I have this understanding of acts of service, is because the only thing I have to do is stay black and die. So my understanding of what I have to do, like, I ain't got to do this shit. So I guess where we have looked at just simple things as just going to work and provide for your family. Like, to me, that's an act of service. That's an act of love. That's an act of, like, how I show my love.
That's not an act of service.
So to me, to her, it's like, yeah, that ain't an act of service because you got to do that. Nah, nigga. All I got to do is stay black and die. That's it. Everything else I do is out of love. And
that's that glim shit, yo. That's that glim shit.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you even like, because I get up and go to work every day.
That, to me, is love. You know how many people who don't love their family and don't do that?
But that's
like, to me, I mean, real talk. There's people who don't show that love to their family. They go to work, they get their money, and they don't provide for their family. Why? Because they don't love their family. Real talk.
Right.
So for me, give me that. Give me that. And I'm not budging from that. That is an amazing act of love to me. For someone to give up 60, 70 hours of their week every week, and what they earn to say, yo, I could just keep this shit for myself in life. I could. And there's a whole lot of motherfuckers who do, but I don't, because I love y'all. So here, this is for y'all too.
Yeah.
It's an act of service.
That's not an act of service.
But how do you communicate that? Because this is a marriage podcast. So how do you communicate that with Gina?
He just telling me this is my act of service. This how you know I love you. I go to work.
Like, not the only way I love you, I go to work. But God forbid, like, I'll be damned if you ain't gonna count that. That's how I do that.
But
that ain't the only way. That ain't the only way.
Al.
But I get no. I'm not saying you don't count it. That's not what I'm saying.
Like, let's be clear.
All right, I'm not saying you don't. Yeah, I'll give you that. You do count it, but please believe I've been saying count that shit from day one, and it ain't always been counted. But yes, you are now and have been for a while. I'm just saying
I've been saying this from Jump Street. Give me that.
Let's be clear. I'm not giving it to you today because it's not an act of service. I do, no, I'm saying, and I've always given you props for, because you've always been a provider. Always. That to me still does not fall under the love acts of service. That is one. That's how you was raised. That belief value system was instilled in you. Men go to work. That's
because
what we
they
do.
love, and that's how.
If you didn't have a family, you would still go to work every day. That's what the men in your family do. You go to work.
And you decided to have that physical touch, and you have children.
I'm just saying. Most responsible adults, they go to work because they know they have to make a living. Yeah. And sure, technically, all you gotta do is stay black and die. Yeah. But to me, I'm just saying that it doesn't fall in the category of acts of service. That falls into the category of great provider, wonderful husband, great person, responsible, accountable, like all of that. But it's not an act of service.
So where do you draw that line then? Right? Because that
you wouldn't.
I'm asking a question. So where do you draw that line? Because the same could be said for physical touch. Because if I married you, I'm expecting you to touch me at some point. That ain't an act of service. Like that's like, you get what I'm saying? So all of this is expected to a certain degree. So where do you draw the line?
Right.
Well, no,
it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It's not?
Hold on. So I believe that JR, right, he loves acts of service. Well, that's his number one in giving and receiving. But so, for instance, he doesn't count my cleaning the house, my washing the dishes, my maintaining the home. None of that is acts of service to him.
I do.
So I think it's...
Yes, I absolutely do. Don't tell me I don't. You've never asked me that, first of all. Secondly, I'm telling you now I do. Don't tell me how I feel without even asking me.
You how you feel. That's not how you feel. I'm saying counting it.
I'm gonna tell you how you feel.
Right. You never asked me that question.
You've never. Yes, I have, JR. You've never expressed that this is that you.
You've asked me, do I consider that act of service?
What I'm saying.
I'm asking you.
Consider that to
you
be
asked
a
me
gender,
before.
not an act of service. We've had this conversation.
No, we have not. You've never asked me, do I consider that an act of service? And if we have, I cannot imagine myself saying no, I don't, because I absolutely do. That's ridiculous.
Okay.
So do Al consider that as an act of service? Since he provides, Al, do you consider that an act of service?
Yeah, he said that.
Except that's not how he receives love.
No. That's not my preference. I did say I prefer words of affirmation, but I also said, and check the tape, that the two that I value the most are words of affirmation and acts of service.
But what if Gina?
What if Gina said that one was for giving and one was for receiving?
Correct.
Yeah, and what
if preference?
What if Gina said that all she had to say is black and die? You see me doing all this cooking and doing all this. I don't have to tell you I love you. I show him my love by doing this.
Gina has every right to say that, though.
And she does.
But that's
which
crazy
is why when she goes beyond that,
when he wants to hear her say the words of affirmation to him, like that's something I can't understand what y'all saying. I'm confused.
It doesn't make sense.
All I'm saying is, what I'm
confused on.
What she could say is, all I have to do is stay black and die. While what she does beyond that, to me, is how she shows her love. So by her taking care of me through her acts of service, she didn't have to do that, but she does. Why? Because she loves me. When she buys me stuff, she didn't have to do that, but she does.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
She loves
but she's not telling you what you want to hear, like your words of affirmation. That's what I'm saying. If she's not telling you that, you feel some type of way if she's not giving you that. But you're saying you're okay with it if she's doing what she's doing around the house. That's what I'm not understanding.
Yes, I would
So I'm
recognize
confused with Gina.
All I'm saying is, yes, I would recognize that she is showing me love, but that doesn't mean that, and I think we all would say this, like, yes, we can acknowledge that someone is showing us love, but if we have another preference or something that we would want more, I guess we're not really fulfilled and we don't feel loved in that way. But we got to still acknowledge, like, yo, she might not be giving me the words that I'm looking for.
Right.
And all right, I'm going to feel a certain kind of way about it. But does my wife still love me? Fuck yeah. How do I know that?
Absolutely.
She brings me lunch every day.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
I think the key word
Well,
is
No, she
someone
loves me.
can
I
be
just don't
bringing
feel it
you
all the time
lunch.
because she might come at me a certain
But
kind
this
of
is my thing. The only reason why we look at the 5 love languages is for your spouse to be loved, so she won't have to look for that from someone else.
That's
You
the only
saying all
reason we
this?
look at it?
You say, I mean, not only reason, but you have people.
Damn,
I mean,
fellas, did y'all hear that?
but
We
y'all be
only look at
serious
this to
though.
make
What
sure.
she's saying.
But be
We want to
serious
make sure our wives don't
because
look no other way.
I
So
mean,
read the book.
Right? Is
JR
that the only reason we do
and
this?
Al, they're saying that this is what we do. Y'all being so strong, but you got people out there in marriages that looks for that love, and they'll get that shit from somewhere else. And
Right.
guess what? I'm bringing you lunch every day, so that doesn't it doesn't
But
make, you know what I'm saying? Like
what I think
the
you're
woman is
confusing though.
looking for that love language and that love from you guys, even though she's still doing what she's doing. Like I'm just
Okay.
confused on that part.
But what I think, what I think is the difference, and what I think you're missing in that, Keita, 2 things. One is preference. Preference is the key word in that, because preference doesn't mean only. Preference means I prefer this, but I accept something else, right? So, but I prefer it this way, but I will accept it in a different way. Secondly, Al explicitly said, and I said as well, that another 2 things. One, men have their own needs too, so it's a 2-way street. So it's not like, to say like, as a man, you need to provide your woman and speak in her love language, or somebody gonna go find it somewhere else. Hell, that's a 2-way street then, if that's the case. Secondly, like, that's why people have different love languages, because we have to learn how to navigate these waters. It doesn't necessarily mean, again, like I'm just not big on the one's better, one's worse, one's good, one's worse. It's just different, and we have to find a way to navigate it. So I don't, I just don't like the idea of saying it's the man's responsibility to speak his woman's love language, or because we take a strong stance on something, when y'all have pretty strong stances too.
But love language is all about catering, like we stated earlier.
No,
it's about
not all about
catering.
catering.
I mean, it really is. It's kind of like
It
you're trying to love your woman the way she wants to be loved,
No,
because it's a
not all the
bond,
time.
it's a marriage.
No, not all the time. I can't love
Not all the
Lady
time.
because that, and if that's the case, I will be spending my life trying to cater to her and trying to make
What
her
do you
happy.
mean all the time though? We're not saying this is an everyday thing. Like this
Right.
is something
I ain't
like
saying
when
every day.
you
I'm saying every
bring
time.
out the candles sometimes, bring out the wine,
Right, sometimes.
maybe plan some shit, go to a trip.
Sometimes. Right, you just said it. Sometimes.
Yeah, not every day.
Right,
No.
that's what I'm saying. So
Okay, so you were thinking love language is something you got to do every day.
no, that's what I'm saying. That's how you're voicing it. That's how you're voicing it.
Oh,
And-
okay. I didn't
yeah.
know I was voicing it that way.
Yeah, so that's what
I
I'm
didn't,
saying.
I didn't
like,
hear that either.
and
I didn't hear that neither, Gina. Okay.
what I'm saying
I
is
get you now.
What I'm saying is when you speak it from, well,
Mm-hmm.
as a man, you got to speak your woman's love language, or somebody else, you're going to go looking for somewhere else. Well, that's totally unfair, because you got to speak my love language too.
Yeah.
So
I agree
while
with
to
you.
these love
And
language.
so what I'm saying is it's a 2-way street. It's a constant like commitment to not committing to the person, but you're committing to the commitment. Of
Yeah.
that. You get what I'm saying?
I think when Jay talking it's a 2-way street. To me, that's what communication is. Communication in its essence is two-way. And with the love languages, for me, it's about how love is communicated, not just
Right.
how it's received, but it's
Right.
how it's sent.
Yes.
That to me is
Right.
what this is all about. And to me, that's what I'm saying is really when you the essence of this conversation should be about how you communicate, how you want it to be sent and received, but also perceiving from the other how they want it to be sent and received. And it just can't be like, yo, you got to do it the way I want to be doing, or you ain't doing
Exactly.
it.
That's what I'm saying.
That to
Right.
me ain't love.
Right.
That ain't love.
Right.
That
But
makes sense.
sometimes also, I think that I think as people in relationships, sometimes we got to know when to fucking let it go, and taking a step back, really looking at your partner and stop. I feel like we do a lot of pointing, a lot of looking in the mirror when we're just reflections of each other. So whatever there is about your spouse that you probably complaining about, you in one way or another show up that same way in your life elsewhere. One, two, it's important to really be grateful for what it is that they do. And I think that is fucking incredibly important. And within all these love languages and every level of communication, my husband may not be a lot of things, okay? And he may get on my motherfucking nerves. And I know I do the same to him on a daily basis. But my husband is a lot of things, okay? And I appreciate him for everything that he is and what he stands in. And I think that's important, that we take each other for granted in our relationships a lot. That's why these love languages, I think, came about, just so that people can understand, like Al said, how to communicate. But absolutely appreciate your spouse for who the fuck they are and what they do. And sometimes there are just going to be expectations that you may not have communicated or that you may have of them that they're not even fucking aware about and that they're not going to meet. So appreciate them for where the fuck they're at. That's what I'm sorry.
Well, I disagree a little bit on that, lady, because I grew up with, like, I grew up with my grandparents. So I grew up with my grandmother, and then also on this weekends I stayed with my grandparents, my dad parents, and so I always saw that's the marriage I've seen, like when it comes to what I look at in marriages. And so I felt like my grandmother was miserable for years. And not saying that she didn't love my grandfather. She did. She loved him. Like, she had what Al was saying, that's the word he used to use. And so that kind of put a thorn in my heart a little bit, because that's what I hear when we used to, being around them, is like, all I got to do is stay black and die. Like, he provided the hell out of my grandmother. Like, he gave her money, he gave her this, that. She had it all, but she still wasn't fulfilled in what she likes to do. Like, she likes to travel. He never did really wanted to do those things because he felt like, I'm going to work. I feel like you're good. Go with your sister and whoever else. You're fine. I'll pay for it. So I felt like she was just kind of heartbroken because she see other people who were married and had a good time and enjoyed each other's company, but she didn't really have that because her husband always was like, well, I'm the provider. Hey, I'm throwing my hands up. So I kind of look at it different. I'm a catering type person. Like, if you see this is what I like, that's why I communicate with Thomas every day. This is what I want. You know what I'm saying? If you can't provide me what I want, or what, to make our marriage happy, and we make each other happy, then everything should be good. I don't see myself just not want to just be in a marriage and I'm not happy and he's not doing the things that I like to do just because he's providing. So that just kind of, get me the wrong way just from seeing my grandparents' marriage.
Do you think your grandmother voiced it to him?
She voiced it. Yeah, she voiced it. She still voiced it to this day. But she loves him hands down. But you know what I'm saying? She even talks to us about it. But even with him. But some men just feel like, and I just even say, like, in the African American community, like, a lot of us just don't cater to each other and just listen. And like that word we've been using all night, like communication. Like, it's nothing wrong with going outside of your box. I know it makes you feel uncomfortable, but shit, I love this lady and I'm going to do what she likes to do. It's nothing wrong with that, doing that sometimes. I never said you have to do that on an everyday basis. Like, that's not what I'm saying here.
Yeah, right.
I'm just saying, love me the way the hell I want to be loved sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Because you got marriages where people just step the hell out because they voice their opinion, but it's still not being heard.
Right, and I would go out on a limb to think, and I would guess that knowing the three of you ladies, that the three of us do spend some time in your box, that we don't stay like consistently in our comfort zone, because I'm sure we'd all probably be single if we did. So I would think that, that I know I spend a considerable amount of time outside of my comfort zone when my wife, wants me over in her area. And I think Al and Pooh probably do too. But when I said again, like I said, there is a two-way street. And I do think just in general, and in the process of a relationship, a lot of times a man's needs, like emotional needs, like do tend to get lost at times. A lot of times to our own fault because we don't voice them. So I say it's a two-way street. I think that's like I said, on a case-by-case basis. Your grandfather's probably just really stubborn. I can't imagine, a lot of dudes, especially in current young relationships, being able to stay in that lane of I'm just gonna go to work all the time and you go to vacation with who you want to go with. I can't imagine many dudes being able to get away with that now.
Yeah, I think, Jay, even what you were saying, I think it's all a two-way street. Even when you were like the three of us and you three ladies wouldn't, and you spend a lot of time. I think every married couple that's working, both people have to do the same.
Right, exactly.
But I do think, and I think Keita came so strongly with. I think that she agrees it's a two-way street too, right, Keita?
Yes, I did. I had to find a calendar.
I'm like, oh shoot, maybe she.
No.
I didn't come off too strong, but hey, I grew up a lot of single women in my life too.
and I just think it's a common narrative, because we do tend to talk more about women's emotional needs than we do about men. And you hear a lot of times women who step out on their marriage, they say it's because the emotional needs weren't met. So I think that's why she took that perspective, Jay, not saying that it should not be a two-way street. But to that point, like, it is fairly challenging because, like you said, Jay, a lot of times men are not open with their emotional needs. And so we're to guess or not if we choose not to, but it's not always, it's not often on Front Street like it is for women.
Right.
Like,
I'll tell you, like a genius told me once, this lady I know who hosts this dope ass podcast. She said, yes, it is up for you to guess, but you better get that shit right.
I'm just saying. Look,
we expect you to get it right. That's all I heard.
We do our best. We do our best. I'm just saying. And so look, and like I said, for marriages that work, right? Because you would have had these conversations already, so you should kind of know.
Right.
You should, even though you guys often close mouth, but we women should kind of know where you are and should be figuring it out. And so, yes, I think that we made it through. When there were major arguments, I think everybody will go to bed. There'll probably be some further conversation when we get off.
That's all right.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I'm ready to perform my acts of service.
Thomas was mighty. Thomas was quiet tonight.
Yeah, he
Thomas.
was a little, but he
I
was
told you when we
Jay
talk about love languages, Thomas is quiet. He has nothing to say.
I was just listening because if you want me to dig in, I dig in. I feel like,
Uh-oh.
once you would, I guess you take in and you gather what the person is saying and you go out and try to apply it and then you go out and execute it. However, when it's done, it seems like it's not good enough or the goalpost is moved. It kind of dampers you. And okay, then you got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and you got to try it all over again. But to me, that's disheartening. I don't know what you guys feel about it, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's how you come out. We was trying to wind this thing down.
You can't throw a brick.
Man.
He said that's a little disheartening.
Can't say that man closed mouths about his emotions though.
Not at all. But that's where that grace comes in, right? Like, you got to give each other grace. Like, we're not always going to hit the mark. Sure. I mean, on either side. But I think it's also important to give what people ask for. Right? So sometimes we will, in our guessing, right, JR, we'll come up with something, or we'll decide how the other person feels or what they want or what they need, and then try to give them that, and then get upset when we're not satisfied. It's like, dude, I don't like orange. Why are you coming here with an orange dress?
Right.
Like, why you doing that? And so yes, it can be a little, but that's where the grace comes in. Yeah. That's where the grace comes. Cool. Hey, Chiquita.
Yes.
I think Thomas was talking to you.
What happened?
Oh God.
I'm just saying.
I missed it.
No, you didn't. You got it. I think he was talking to you. That's for further conversation after we get off the podcast, huh?
I can
there
repeat
you
it
go.
in Swahili.
Hey, the podcast's over now. So.
The podcast is over. And on that note, we will say good night. Thanks.
Buenas noches.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Same time, same channel.
Peace. Good night.
Good night.
No doubt. Peace.
Best Medicine Podcast with Simba, sparking positive change in the community, having real conversations and therapy. And you know that laughter's the best remedy. Got that heavy dose of humor for your hearts to heal. With mental health, it can't get any more real, yeah. Best Medicine Podcast. Laugh, love, learn. Best Medicine Podcast.
Best Med Pod, it's your man Simba Roar back in this thing one more time, bruh. Come get your weekly diagnosis Thursday at midnight, only on the Defy Life Podcast Network. Check us out, though.